Oh, I think that is just about as bad as it's going to get for Chelsea this season. Then again, maybe I shouldn't say that. Maybe I'm tempting fate and Aston Villa could do us 6-0 or something when we play them on Saturday night, because last night's performance was absolutely abysmal. And I get that you can look at it, you can look at the list of injuries. You could field a starting 11 with a lot of value with the injuries that we've got. I get you could look at that. You can look at the young, inexperienced squad. You can look at the fact that it's Mauricio Pochettino's first season with these lot. But fuck me, that was bad. That was an execution last night. And do you know what the worst thing about that is, right? Arsenal weren't even that good. And people are going to laugh at this. I'm going to have people in my comment section going, oh, it's another deluded Chelsea fan. Arsenal weren't even that good. When I was looking at it in the first half, I was thinking, right, we're not getting time on the ball, we're not getting much space, but there are opportunities to be had here. And maybe past sort of Chelsea teams of years gone by would have been able to understand what we were up against in that match. They'd have been able to understand that, okay, they've got the quality, they've got the experience, they've got the momentum here, but if we can stay resolute, if we can put in a good defensive display, we could probably catch these lot and we could draw the game 1-1, or we could do a smash and grab and nick it 2-1 or something like that. But those Chelsea teams of years gone by are very, very far in the distance from this side now. And unfortunately, the managers we've had in the dugout are also very far in the distance of the man we've got right now, because Mauricio Pochettino at this moment in time is actually showing absolutely nothing, man. You can blame it on the players, the inexperience, his tactics not being, played out on the pitch. But I don't know, man. Look at last night. Look at the starting lineup. Barring the injuries, are you telling me that after two of the better defensive displays that we've seen this season in the Everton match and the FA Cup semi-final against Manchester United, it warranted for completely ripping up the script and changing the centre-back pairing? Who honestly watched the Everton match, watched the Man City match and thought, you know what we should do? We should stick to Sassy and Badiashile, who look like they're on skates every single time they play. Stick them against the probably most prolific team in the Premier League this season. It just doesn't make any sense, man. It does not make any sense. And if Thiago Silva and Trevor Chalobah aren't injured, what? Why do you change that centre-back pairing? We've struggled all season to find a good centre-back pairing, and one that looks like it can be resolute, keep the mistakes to a minimal, because we've always got a few in there, but actually look decent, look up for it, look like they're fighting for the badge, show a bit of experience. We've struggled to find that, and over the last two games we've seen that in Thiago Silva and Trevor Chalobah. Two men who were at the club before Todd Bowley's tenure. Two men that have won major silverware with Chelsea Football Club. One man who's pretty much done it all in the game and has all that experience, and another man who's come through the academy and completely understands what it means to fight for the badge, what it means to play for Chelsea. You take them two out the lineup and you put two guys in there that, okay, have had little moments of, good defensive work, maybe good defensive partnership, but more often than not, these two have been fucking found wanting every time they played together this season. Badiashile looks a million miles off what we had seen from him when he was brought in. When Badiashile was brought in midway through last season, I was thinking, oh my god, we've unearthed a little gem there, we've got a good player there, and I still think we possibly will have. But him and Disasi just does not work. Imagine being Thiago Silva. For that matter, imagine being Trevor Chalobah. Mauricio Pochettino walks into you after, by the way, us only conceding one goal against Manchester City, who have put many goals past many teams this season, and keeping a clean sheet, albeit there was a disallowed goal, against Everton, right? That's the first clean sheet we've kept. I don't know. Can anyone tell me? Maybe this year? And we're in April, nearly in May. I don't know. It's the first clean sheet we kept in a long time. Imagine being them, sat in the changing room. Pochettino walks in and goes, you boys, you're not playing this week. Oh, brilliant. So what incentivization, is that a word? I don't know, I'm going to run with it. What incentive does that give the other players to know, I could put in two really good performances by the standards we've set this season, and I ain't going to get a look in the next game? Sorry guys, there's drilling going on behind me, but I think we're going to have to try and drown it out, to be honest, because I'm leaving to go to the airport soon, and this is about the best we're going to get. In fact, that's just too loud. So changing the centre-back pairing last night was an absolute disaster from Mauricio Pochettino, and one that I don't think can really go understated, just how bad a bad a choice that was, Also, we look at the lineup last night. I mean, look, we're massively limited for injuries. Enzo Fernandez, I don't know if he's fit. Enzo and Caicedo got completely overrun in the midfield. Should probably give a word for our old boy Kai Havertz. He pops up with a couple of goals, and the Arsenal fans were obviously absolutely loving that one, weren't they? That was the best thing that had ever happened to him. Yeah, man, just completely outplayed. Just didn't look up for it. Do you know what, right? I remember Arsene Wenger's 1000th game. In that 1000th game of Arsene Wenger, right, I remember I'd already started to realise that Arsenal obviously just weren't that team anymore. They were not the side that we had seen, go invincible, which they will literally never let you forget happened. I mean, look, I think these boys here could have put in a bit more of an effort than Chelsea last night. But yeah, I remember when Arsene Wenger came to Stamford Bridge for his 1000th game, right? And I remember being under the impression at that moment that was the point that Arsenal fans probably realised that their club was no longer what they'd grown up with their club being. And I think I'd probably be in denial to say I hadn't realised that up until this point, but if I hadn't, last night definitely cemented it. Because when we think about underwhelming Chelsea seasons under Roman Abramovich's tenureship, we still had those key moments in there, like stopping Tottenham win the title against Leicester, and we still always had that confidence that the following season we'd probably come back and do something quite good, Maybe if we didn't qualify for the Champions League, that's when we would actually see a benefit of, okay, now we've only got one game a week, barring cup competitions or something like that. But there's absolutely no, I don't know, man, there's no confidence I have now of thinking, okay, yeah, we might do something well next season. Under Mauricio Pochettino, I just don't know. I don't really see this great manager that a lot of people will dine out on and speak about constantly. Like, I'm not, diminishing these managers at all, but I just feel like Eddie Howe, for example, would have got a way better performance out of this Chelsea side last night had he been the manager. I feel like so many managers in the Premier League would have got a way better performance out of this Chelsea side. Now, under Mauricio Pochettino, let's not ignore the obvious. We are playing better offensive football than the Chelsea side last season were under Graham Potter and under Frank Lampard and even Thomas Tuchel. But we're leaking goals. We're absolutely leaking goals. And surely you could have a match like last night where you come out, first half, you realise, okay, probably can't, have a shootout with Arsenal in this game because they've just got too much quality, too much know-how and too much momentum. But what we can do is be defensively resolute and then look to win the match. And other managers, definitely a Thomas Tuchel, someone like that, would be able to do that. And this Chelsea side at the moment can't do that at all for love nor money. We cannot shut up shop and just put in a good defensive display and then hopefully try and get a draw in games that maybe we'd be losing. Hopefully try and get a win in games that maybe we'd be drawing. So yeah, it's a pretty pathetic performance from Chelsea last night, and I don't really know what more I can say about the performance. I was disgusted with it. Sat in a pub watching it, it was painful, man. I had a few people in the pub that had seen the podcast and stuff like that, so to then have a chat with me off the back of a 5-0 loss, pretty bad, isn't it? It is pretty bad. Do you know what? When I look at Arsenal, right, and I try and draw comparisons as to where they've been in the past and where we are right now, a lot of people were saying, when Arteta first came in, that's a little bit like this Chelsea side right now. I'd beg to differ. He had experienced key players in there, in that side, that were able to help form what he's got now, and they might not still be here now, but they were very much part of that process into getting Arsenal back into a competitive position. And at the moment, Chelsea haven't got many of them right now, so that's what we need to go and get. It's funny, right? When we did beat them in Arsene Wenger's 1000th game, and I was saying that to me spelled the end of Arsenal being a top team that are going to be fighting at the top end of the Premier League each season. When that happened, there was no part of me that thought, right, okay, they'll come again next season or anything like that. In my head, I was just thinking, right, well, that's Arsenal done now. And that might sound harsh, but, I thought it'd take a good few years for them to come back and get to this position that they're in right now. And it makes me think, God, man, how long until Chelsea come back and get into this position? I remember watching the All or Nothing documentary of Arsenal, and you were seeing that things were starting to tick behind the scenes. Edu looked like he had a good rapport with the manager, the board. Everything started to look a lot better. You had Josh Kroenke getting involved instead of his dad, and everything was starting. The wheels were starting to turn, and maybe they had the benefit of being able to showcase that because they had that documentary, unlike Chelsea. But I just think we're a million miles off that. I think we're a million miles off that. And when you look at performances like last night, I don't know what confidence we can really take until maybe we see a few more signings come in, a few guys that aren't 18-year-old wonder kids, a few guys that have done it in Europe, sort of top leagues, in the biggest occasions, Champions League football and stuff like that. Until I see a few of them come in, I'm going to have no confidence really that Chelsea can do all that much next season. Players needed to step up without Cole Palmer last night, and we really didn't. I think we've always got, it's very easy to be a reactionary Chelsea fan straight away. Pochettino out. What's the other options? Because when Frank Lampard, was potentially looking at getting moved on by Chelsea Football Club, we knew they had Thomas Tuchel lined up ready there. One key thing, Roman Abramovich, he was always bombarded for, he sacks managers, the second anything goes wrong. He always had a good replacement lined up. Well, maybe not Rafa Benitez, but for the most part, he always had a good replacement lined up. It's not like we're going to have that. If we sack Mauricio Pochettino, who do we go with? Who do we go with that is more of a here and now manager, but would also bow down to the board's sort of shortcomings? I think if the board are going to look for a yes man, maybe Mauricio Pochettino is the best one we can get. Because ultimately, you have people going, Hansi Flick, and I don't even know who else, Ruben Amorim. There's so many jobs on the market this summer, with Liverpool being one of them, Manchester United potentially being another, Barcelona potentially being another, Bayern Munich. There's so many jobs on the market this summer that it's going to be very hard to twist a manager's arm and try and convince a top manager to come to Chelsea Football Club. It's going to be very hard to be able to do that. So I think that at the moment, despite the pretty much entirety of all the Chelsea YouTube and football sort of space calling from Mauricio Pochettino's head, I think it's quite hard to do that when you understand that you might not have anyone decent enough to replace him to come in. I don't know. I really don't know. I wonder what sort of level Mauricio Pochettino is at right now, because I think it's hard to base him and judge it on this current Chelsea side. What would he do with an Arsenal? What would he do with a Liverpool? Is he that sort of level of manager? Or have we had the wool pulled over our eyes because he won, 1 out of 2 league titles available to him in Paris? Everyone does that in France. Probably wins 2 out of 2 really in France. And then he got to a Champions League final with Spurs and didn't turn up in that game. I don't know, man. I don't know. Things are looking bleak. Things are looking pretty grim at the moment. Do we go and get a win against Aston Villa? The thing is, because we've had these games in hand, we're still 1 point behind West Ham with 2 games in hand on them. And if we win both of our games in hand right now, we'd go above Man United still, I think, in the table. So when you look at that, you think, okay, everything's to play for. But I don't know, man. I really don't know. Haven't got much confidence that we can go and get a win against Aston Villa. Would I sack Mauricio Pochettino today off the back of that? The part of me that doesn't want to just be purely reactionary and be silly, give silly takes, wants me to say no. But if I'm being completely honest, yeah, probably would. Would you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, people. See you in the next one.